Single dad rents a room to two strange college twin girls, unaware of who they were. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. The fluorescent lights of Morrison's Hardware hummed overhead as Theo stood in the plumbing aisle comparing prices on pipe fittings. His shopping list was modest, just the basics to fix the guest bathroom sink that had started dripping 2 days ago. He was reaching for a package of washers when a hand clamped down on his forearm with surprising strength. "Samuel, dear." "Oh, I'm sorry, Theo." He turned to find Marley, his neighbor from 3 houses down, her eyes wide and urgent behind her rhinestone-studded glasses. Marley was 72 years old and had lived on Maple Street longer than anyone could remember. She knew everyone's business, attended every city council meeting, and had a network of gossip that rivaled the FBI. "Hi, Marley," Theo said, trying to gently extract his arm. "How are you?" "Do you know who those girls are?" she interrupted, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper that somehow carried across the entire aisle. "The ones staying at your house?" Theo felt something cold slide down his spine. "Audrey and Kira. They're college students, final year students at U of O. They're renting my spare room for—" "They're the Quinn twins!" Marley's grip tightened. Her face was flushed, her breathing rapid. "Their mother is Jayla Quinn. The Jayla Quinn. The woman who owns half the tech companies on the West Coast." The package of washers slipped from Theo's fingers and clattered to the floor. "What?"
"I overheard it, dear. At the town supermarket, I saw a group of women talking about it, and they told me the whole story. Those girls ran away from home 3 weeks ago, just vanished, left their fancy dormitory without a word. They're saying each of those girls is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions." Theo's mouth had gone dry. That's impossible. They're just—" Marley pulled out her phone with trembling hands, swiping frantically. "Here, look. Is this them?" She thrust the screen in front of Theo's. Below it were 2 photographs, professional headshots, the kind taken for corporate websites or society pages. 2 young women with blonde hair and striking green eyes, wearing elegant dresses and pearl earrings. They looked polished, poised, untouchable. They also looked exactly like the 2 girls currently living in his house. "That's them," Marley said, watching his face. "Isn't it?" Theo couldn't speak. His heart was hammering so hard he could feel it in his throat. He stared at the photographs, at Audrey's serious expression, at Kira's slight smile, and felt the world tilt sideways.
"I have to go," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Theo, you should call the police. I have to go." He left the washers on the floor, left his shopping cart in the middle of the aisle, and walked out of the store like a man in a dream. The January air hit him like a slap, cold and sharp, but he barely felt it. His truck was parked 3 rows back. He climbed in, started the engine, and sat there for a full minute, staring at his hands on the steering wheel. Billionaire heiresses. Living in his house. Sleeping in the room where he stored Penny's old toys. Eating cereal at his kitchen table. Playing with his daughter. What had he done? The drive home took 12 minutes, but it felt like 12 hours. Theo's mind was racing, spinning through possibilities, each one worse than the last. What if their mother showed up with lawyers? What if she accused him of kidnapping? What if she thought he was holding them for ransom? He was a high school woodworking teacher who could barely afford his mortgage. One lawsuit would destroy him. One accusation would cost him everything: his job, his house, his daughter. He pulled into his driveway and sat there, engine running, staring at his modest 3-bedroom house. The paint was peeling on the shutters, the porch light was still out from last month. This was his home, his and Penny's, and now it felt like a bomb waiting to explode. Through the living room window, he could see movement, shadows, laughter. He turned off the engine and went inside.
The scene that greeted him was so painfully normal it made his chest ache. Penny was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, her blonde hair freshly braided into 2 neat plaits that she definitely hadn't had this morning. She was wearing her favorite pink dress, and her face was lit up with pure joy. Audrey was beside her, carefully weaving colored thread into a friendship bracelet. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she was wearing jeans and a sweater. Not exactly billionaire attire. Kira was sprawled on the couch with a picture book open in her lap, doing exaggerated voices for each character. And then the dragon said, Kira deepened her voice to a comical growl, "Who dares enter my cave?" "The princess!" Penny shrieked with delight. "The princess dares!" None of them had noticed Theo yet. He stood in the doorway, keys still in his hand, watching this perfect domestic scene, and felt something crack inside his chest. "Daddy!" Penny had spotted him. She jumped up and ran over, throwing her arms around his legs. "Look, Audrey made me pretty, and Kira's reading the dragon book with all the voices. Can we have spaghetti for dinner? Please, please, please?" Theo looked down at his daughter's upturned face, at her gap-toothed smile, at the joy in her blue eyes, and felt his throat tighten. "Sweetheart, can you go upstairs for a bit? Daddy needs to talk to Audrey and Kira." Penny's smile faltered. "But we're in the middle of the story. Now, please." Something in his tone made her stop arguing. Her lower lip trembled, that warning sign that she was about to cry, but she nodded and trudged toward the stairs, her light-up sneakers flashing with each step. The moment her bedroom door clicked shut, the atmosphere in the room changed. Audrey and Kira were both standing now, and the color had drained from their faces. They knew. Somehow they already knew. "Mr. Ford?" Audrey started, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're the Quinn twins?" Theo said. It wasn't a question. The silence that followed was suffocating. Kira looked at the floor. Audrey closed her eyes, and a single tear slid down her cheek. "Your mother is Jayla Quinn," Theo continued, his voice shaking despite his efforts to keep it steady. "She owns tech companies. She's worth I don't even know how much. And you've been here, in my house, for 5 days, and you didn't think to mention that?" "We couldn't," Kira began, but Audrey held up a hand. "Don't," Audrey said softly. "He deserves the truth." She looked up at Theo, and the expression on her face nearly broke him. It was fear and shame and desperation all tangled together. "Yes, we're the Quinn twins. Our mother is Jayla Quinn. Everything you've heard is probably true, and we're sorry. We're so sorry. We should have told you, but we were afraid you'd... I need you to leave." The words came out harsher than Theo intended, but he couldn't stop them. "I need you to pack your things and leave my house right now." "Please," Kira took a step forward, her hands clasped together like she was praying. "Please, Mr. Ford, you don't understand." "Then help me understand," Theo cracked. "Why would 2 girls who have everything, money, education, opportunity, why would you run away and hide in a stranger's house? Why would you lie to me? Do you have any idea what this could do to me, to Penny?" He was breathing hard now, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Your mother is probably looking for you. She probably has private investigators, and when she finds out you're here, what do you think happens to me? I'm a single dad who's barely making rent. One phone call from her, and I lose everything. My job, my house, my daughter." "We never meant for that to happen," Audrey said, tears streaming freely now. "We never meant to hurt you or Penny. We had nowhere else to go." "You're billionaires! You could go anywhere!" "Not without her finding us." Kiara's voice was so quiet, Theo almost didn't hear it. "Not without her dragging us back." Theo stared at them, his anger warring with something else, something that felt dangerously like sympathy. "I don't understand," he said finally. "What are you running from?" Audrey and Kiara looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind only twins could share. Then Audrey nodded slowly and sat down on the couch, her shoulders sagging with defeat. "Our mother doesn't see us as people. She sees us as assets, as pieces on a chessboard. From the moment we were born, she planned out every detail of our lives, the schools we would attend, the degrees we would earn, the people we would marry." Theo felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Marry?" "She arranged a marriage for me," Audrey said, her voice hollow, "with her business partner's son, Preston Whitfield.
The moment I graduate in May, I'm supposed to marry him. It's already been decided. Contracts have been signed. Wedding venues have been booked. None of it involved asking me what I wanted. How old is he? Tio asked, though part of him didn't want to know. 42. The number hung in the air like poison.
I've met him exactly 3 times, Audrey continued. He treats women like decorations, like trophies to put on a shelf. He talks about me like I'm a business acquisition. Our marriage would secure a merger between Quinn Technologies and Whitfield Industries. That's all it is, a business transaction. And I'm the product being sold. Kira moved to sit beside her sister, taking her hand. Audrey refused. She told our mother she wouldn't do it, and I supported her because that's what we do. We protect each other. We're all we have. What did your mother say? Theo asked, though he was starting to suspect he already knew. She didn't argue. She didn't yell. She just looked at us for a long moment, and then she made one phone call. Within 24 hours, every bank account we had was frozen. Every credit card was canceled. Everything we had access to, everything we could use to survive independently, just vanished. She thought we'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, agreeing to do whatever she wanted. But we didn't. We couldn't. We slept in our car for a week, in January, in parking lots and rest stops. We had $93 in cash between us. We lived on vending machine food and whatever we could afford at convenience stores. We were so cold, so scared. And then Kira found your rental listing online at a library computer, and it felt like maybe we had a chance. Theo sat down heavily in the armchair across from them. His head was spinning. Everything he'd thought he understood about these 2 young women had just been turned upside down. Your mother froze your accounts, cut you off completely, to force you back? To punish us, Kira corrected, to teach us that we have no power, no autonomy, that everything we have exists because she allows it, and the moment we step out of line, it all disappears.
But you're adults. You're 23 years old. Can't you just access our trust funds? Not until we're 25. Take out loans? Not without a cosigner. And she's made sure no bank will touch us. Get jobs? With what credentials? We've been in school our entire lives, and every recommendation we'd need comes from people she controls. Audrey's voice was bitter. She's been 10 steps ahead of us from the beginning. She built a cage so perfect we didn't even realize we were trapped until we tried to leave. The room fell silent. Theo could hear the old house settling around them, could hear Penny's footsteps moving back and forth upstairs. His daughter was probably pacing, anxious, wondering what was happening. So you came here, to my house, knowing that when your mother found you, it could destroy me. We felt we'd be gone before she found us. We thought we just needed 4 months, enough to graduate, to get our degrees. We thought with our diplomas, maybe we'd have a chance. Maybe we could find work, build something without her. It was stupid. We were naive, but we were desperate. And we were selfish, Audrey added, looking directly at Theo. Because you're right. When she finds us, and she will find us, you'll be caught in the crossfire. And we're sorry. We're so sorry. We'll leave right now. We'll figure something else out. She stood up, wiping her tears, and started toward the stairs. Theo watched her go, watched both of them preparing to walk out of his house and back into the cold, back into their car probably, back into hiding, running, fear. And in his mind he heard a voice, Ruth's voice. The measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it's hard.
Ruth had said that to him 6 months before she died, when they were facing crushing medical bills and impossible decisions. She'd said it with her hand in his, with that smile that had always made him believe anything was possible. Do the hard thing, she'd whispered. Even when it costs you. Especially when it costs you. Wait, Theo said. Audrey and Kira froze halfway to the stairs. Theo stood up, ran a hand through his hair, and let out a long, shaky breath. You two can keep the room. Audrey turned around slowly, disbelief written all over her face. "What?" "You heard me. You can stay." "Mr. Ford, you just said—" "I know what I said." Theo's voice was rough. "And I meant it. When your mother finds you, my life is probably going to implode. But you know what? My wife used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when it's hard. You two are trying to live your own lives. You're trying to be free. And I'm not going to be the one who takes that away from you." Kira made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "You're serious, after everything we just told you?" "I'm terrified. I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my life. But I'm also a father. And if someone ever tried to force Penny into a marriage she didn't want, if someone ever tried to control her life like that, I'd hope someone would help her, even if it was hard, even if it was dangerous." He looked at Audrey, whose tears were flowing freely now. "So yeah, you can stay. But we're going to have some ground rules. No more secrets. If something happens, if you hear from your mother, if someone recognizes you, anything, you tell me immediately. And you help around the house. Not because you're paying rent, but because we're a team now. Understood?" "Understood." "Thank you," Kira breathed. "Thank you so much." "Don't thank me yet. Thank me if we all make it through this in one piece."
That night, after Penny had been reassured that Audrey and Kira weren't leaving, Daddy just had to make sure they wanted to stay forever, Theo had explained, earning him a tight hug from his daughter. After dinner had been eaten and dishes had been washed, Theo lay on his couch in the darkness and wondered what he'd just agreed to. The couch was lumpy and too short for his 6-foot frame. His feet hung off the end. A spring was digging into his lower back. But none of that was what kept him awake. "I hope I'm doing the right thing," Theo thought, staring at the ceiling. "I hope I'm making you proud." Upstairs, he could hear quiet voices. Audrey and Kira talking in whispers, planning probably, worrying, scared. Theo closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow was Saturday. Penny had swimming lessons in the morning. He had laundry to do and groceries to buy. Normal, everyday tasks that suddenly felt fragile, like they could shatter at any moment. But for tonight at least, 2 young women were safe. For tonight, they had a home. And that had to be enough. The next 3 weeks passed in a rhythm that was almost dangerously normal. Audrey and Kira fell into the household routine like they'd been there for years. They cooked dinner 3 nights a week, rotating with Theo. Audrey made a Thai curry that was so good, Penny asked for it every single night afterward. Kira baked chocolate chip cookies from scratch, teaching Penny how to crack eggs without getting shells in the batter.
They helped with homework, even though Penny was only in kindergarten and homework consisted mostly of coloring and practicing writing her name. They did laundry without being asked. They fixed the leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom using a YouTube tutorial and leftover parts from the hardware store. They fit, and that was the dangerous part, because Theo could feel himself getting attached, could feel his guard dropping. Every morning he woke up on that lumpy couch expecting disaster, expecting police at his door, or lawyers with lawsuits, or Jayla Quinn herself standing on his porch with fury in her eyes. But day after day, nothing happened. The world kept spinning. Life went on. Penny was thriving. She'd always been a quiet child, something Theo had worried about since Ruth's death. His daughter had retreated into herself, had stopped laughing as much, had nightmares that woke her up crying for her mama. But now she was singing again, making up elaborate stories about princesses and dragons, begging for just one more chapter at bedtime. She followed Audrey and Kira around the house like a devoted puppy, helping them with whatever they were doing, chattering nonstop about her day at school. One Saturday afternoon, Theo was in the garage working on a bookshelf for a neighbor's commission when he heard laughter from the backyard. He set down his sander and walked to the window. Penny was running in circles, shrieking with joy. Audrey was chasing her with a water hose, careful to keep the spray gentle and warm. Kira was lying on the grass, her face turned up to the February sun, smiling. And Theo felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. He turned back to his work, but his hands were shaking. He loved those girls. Not just what they brought to Penny's life, but who they were. Audrey with her quiet strength and surprising sense of humor.
Kira with her kindness and the way she could diffuse any tension with a well-timed joke. They were becoming family, and that thought terrified him more than anything Jayla Quinn could throw at them, because family meant vulnerability. Family meant something to lose. It was in the 4th week that things started to shift. Theo noticed it first in small ways, the way Audrey lingered in the kitchen after dinner, cleaning up while he dried dishes. The way their conversations had gone from polite and careful to easy and natural. The way she laughed at his terrible jokes. The way she looked at him sometimes when she thought he wasn't paying attention. And the way his heart did something strange and unfamiliar in response. He tried to ignore it, tried to tell himself it was just gratitude, or respect, or friendship. But then there was the Saturday morning when he came downstairs early and found her sitting at the kitchen table with Ruth's favorite mug, the one that said, "Best Mom Ever," in Penny's crooked handwriting. Audrey looked up, startled, and immediately started to set the mug down. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize." "It's okay," he said, surprising himself. She'd want someone to use it. Audrey held the mug carefully, like it was made of glass. "She told me about her," she said quietly. "About how she used to make pancakes shaped like animals, about how she'd do voices when she read bedtime stories, about how she made the world feel safe." Theo sat down across from her, his throat tight. She was good at that, making things feel okay even when they weren't. "You miss her. Every day." "I'm not trying to replace her," Audrey said quickly. "I know I couldn't. I want you to know that. Whatever this is, whatever we're building here, it's not about replacing what you had. It's about, I don't know, maybe it's about creating something new?" Theo looked at her, really looked at her, at the way the morning light caught in her hair, at the vulnerability in her green eyes, at the way she held Ruth's mug like it was precious. "She would have liked to," he said softly. "Ruth. She would have let you stay without a second thought. She was like that, always helping people even when it was complicated, especially when it was complicated. I wish I could have met her." "Me too." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking coffee as the house slowly woke up around them, and Theo realized that, for the first time since Ruth's death, he didn't feel guilty about feeling something. About maybe, possibly, starting to care about someone new. One night in late February, the air still cold, but with the first hint of spring underneath, Audrey found Theo already outside, staring up at the stars. "Can I join you?" she asked. He nodded, and she sat beside him on the steps. Their shoulders touched. Neither of them moved away. "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like? If Ruth had lived? If things had gone differently?" "All the time," Theo admitted. "But lately—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Lately, I've been wondering something else. About the life I might have now, the one I'm actually living. And I think maybe it's okay to have both. To miss what I lost and still be grateful for what I've found."
Audrey was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "When we first came here, I thought we were just looking for a place to hide, somewhere to survive until graduation. But now I think we were looking for something else, something we didn't even know we needed." "What's that?" "A home." She turned to look at him, and there were tears on her cheeks. "When we first came here, I thought we were just looking for a place to hide, somewhere to survive until graduation. But now I think we were looking for something else, something we didn't even know we needed." "What's that?" "A home." She turned to look at him, and there were tears on her cheeks. "Not just a place to sleep, but a home, with people who care about us because of who we are, not what we're worth. With someone who listens when we talk and notices when we're sad and makes terrible puns at breakfast that make Penny groan." Theo felt his heart do that strange flutter again. "Audrey," she interrupted, the words coming faster now, like a dam breaking. I know I shouldn't say this. I know it's complicated and messy and probably stupid, but I have to tell you. You don't have to. I think I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them. Theo's breath caught in his chest. I know I have no right, Audrey continued, her voice shaking. I know I'm young, and I come with more baggage than anyone should have to carry. I know my mother is going to find us eventually, and when she does, everything is going to explode. But I had to tell you because I've never felt this before. This safe, this seen, this much like I could actually be myself. Theo reached over and took her hand. It was trembling. I'm not rich, he said quietly. I can't give you the life you're used to. I teach high school woodworking and do furniture commissions on the weekend, and sometimes I can barely afford groceries. I have a 5-year-old daughter who has nightmares and needs someone who's going to be there for the long haul. I live in a house with peeling paint and a garage full of sawdust and memories of someone I'll never stop loving. I don't care about any of that. Let me finish. He squeezed her hand gently. I can't give you wealth or status or whatever it is your mother thinks you need, but I can promise you this. I will never try to control you. I will never make decisions for you. I will never see you as anything other than the amazing, brave, beautiful person you are. And I will love you, completely, honestly, for exactly who you choose to be. Audrey let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Is that a yes? That's a yes.
She kissed him then, soft and tentative at first, then deeper, and Theo felt something he'd thought was dead come back to life. Not replacing what he'd had with Ruth, but something new, something different, something possible. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Audrey rested her forehead against his. Your mother is going to kill me, Theo said. Probably, Audrey agreed, but it'll be worth it. They tried to keep it quiet at first, for Penny's sake, for Kira's sake, for the sake of not making an already complicated situation even more complex. But Penny figured it out within 3 days. Daddy, she said one morning at breakfast, pointing her spoon at him accusingly, you keep smiling at Audrey. I smile at everyone, Theo protested. Not like that. That's a special smile. Kira snorted into her orange juice. Audrey turned bright red. Are you going to marry her? Penny asked bluntly. Penny. Because I think you should. Then she could be my mommy, and Kira could be my aunt, and we could all be a family forever and ever. Theo looked helplessly at Audrey, who was covering her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent laughter. We're taking it slow, sweetheart, Theo managed. Boring, Penny declared, and went back to her cereal. But that night when Theo tucked her in, Penny wrapped her arms around his and whispered, I like Audrey, Daddy. I like her a lot, and I think Mommy was like her too. Theo's eyes burned with tears. Yeah, baby, I think she would.
March arrived with rain and uncertainty. Audrey and Kira had exactly 2 months left until graduation. Theo had started setting aside money, not much, just whatever he could spare from his commissions, thinking about what would happen afterward, whether the girls could stay, whether Jayla would find them, whether they'd make it. He was in his garage one Saturday afternoon, sanding the legs of a dining table, when Kira appeared in the doorway. Can we talk? She asked. Theo set down his sander. Sure. Everything okay? That depends. Kira came in and sat on his workbench, her legs swinging. You're in love with my sister. It wasn't a question, but Theo nodded anyway. Yeah, I am. And she's in love with you. She says she is. She is. Kira was quiet for a moment, studying him. Our whole lives, Audrey and I have looked out for each other. We've been all each other had. And now she's found something else, someone else. And part of me is terrified. I would never hurt her. I know you wouldn't, not on purpose. Kira's voice was sad. But our mother is going to find us eventually. And when she does, she's going to try to destroy everything Audrey loves. That's what she does. She eliminates obstacles. And right now, Mr. Ford, you're an obstacle. I can handle whatever she throws at me. Can you?
Can you handle lawyers and lawsuits and private investigators digging into every corner of your life? Can you handle her trying to take Penny away, claiming you're an unfit parent for harboring runaways? Can you handle watching the woman you love being forced back into a world she's desperate to escape? Theo felt cold. She would really try to take Penny? She would do whatever it takes to win. That's who she is. Kira's expression softened. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. Because if you're really in this, if you really love my sister, you need to know what's coming. I'm not backing down, Theo said firmly. I'm not going anywhere.
Good. Kira smiled slightly. Because Audrey deserves someone who fights for her. We both do. And I think you might actually be that person. She hopped off the workbench and started to leave, then turned back. Oh, and Mr. Ford, thank you for everything. For letting us stay, for keeping us safe, for making my sister smile like that. I haven't seen her this happy in maybe ever. She left before Theo could respond, but her words stayed with him for the rest of the day and into the night. And when he lay on his couch that evening, unable to sleep, he made a decision. Whatever Jayla Quinn threw at them, he would face it. Not because he was brave, but because he'd found something worth fighting for. 2 young women trying to be free. A little girl who finally had a family and a chance at something he'd thought he'd lost forever: love. April came, and with it, the reckoning. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Penny was at school. Audrey and Kira were at the university taking exams. Theo was home, grading papers at the kitchen table, when he heard the cars pull up. Not one car, multiple cars. He looked out the window and felt his blood run cold. A black limousine sat in his driveway. Behind it were 2 black SUVs with tinted windows. Men in dark suits were getting out, positioning themselves around his property like soldiers preparing for battle. And then she stepped out of the limousine. Jayla Quinn was exactly what Theo had expected, and somehow worse. She was in her mid-50s, impeccably dressed in a gray suit, her hair pulled back in a severe bun. She moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. She walked up to his front door and knocked once. Firm. Commanding. Theo's hands were shaking as he opened it.
Mr. Ford, she said. Not a question. She knew exactly who he was. My name is Jayla Quinn. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Your daughters are adults, Theo said, proud that his voice didn't shake. They don't belong to anyone. Jayla's smile was cold. May I come in? It wasn't really a request. Theo stepped aside and she entered like she owned the place. Her security team started to follow, but she held up a hand. Wait outside. They obeyed without question. Jayla walked through Theo's modest living room, her eyes taking in every detail. The worn furniture, the toys scattered in the corner, the photographs of Penny and Ruth on the mantel. She picked up one of Penny's drawings from the coffee table, a picture of 5 stick figures labeled Daddy, me, Audrey, Kira, and Mommy with a halo. Charming, she said, setting it down. Why are you here? Theo asked. My daughters have been missing for weeks. I've spent a considerable amount of money and resources trying to find them. And then, yesterday, one of my investigators spotted them coming out of a coffee shop near the University of Oregon. They followed them here, to your house. So I'll ask you directly, Mr. Ford. Are Audrey and Kira currently residing in your home? Theo's mind was racing. He could lie. He could deny everything. But what was the point? She already knew. Their names are Audrey and Kira, he said instead. And yes, they've been staying here. For how long? Almost 6 weeks. And you didn't think to contact the authorities to report that you were harboring 2 missing persons? They're not missing. They're running. There's a difference. Semantics. Jayla's voice was ice. Tell me, Mr. Ford, what exactly were you hoping to gain from this arrangement? Money? A reward?
Access to my family's wealth.
I wasn't hoping to gain anything. Don't insult my intelligence. You're a single father living paycheck to paycheck in a house that's falling apart. My daughters show up with famous names and family connections, and you expect me to believe you took them in out of the goodness of your heart? I took them in because they were sleeping in their car. Theo's voice rose. Because you froze their accounts and cut them off and left them with nothing. Because they were desperate and scared and had nowhere else to go. They had a home. They had everything they could possibly need. Except freedom. Except the right to make their own choices. Except a mother who saw them as people instead of chess pieces. Jayla's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. You don't know anything about my daughters or what I've done for them. I know you tried to force Audrey into marrying a man twice her age to seal a business deal. I know you treat your daughters like property. And I know when they stood up to you, you punished them by taking away everything they had. I was teaching them a lesson. You were breaking them. Theo was shaking now, and it didn't work because they're stronger than you gave them credit for. They've been here for 6 weeks, and in that time, I've watched them heal. I've watched them laugh and cry and start to believe they might actually have a future that doesn't involve being controlled. And what future is that, exactly? Living in your spare bedroom, working minimum wage jobs, throwing away everything I've built for them? If that's what they want, yes, you're a fool. Maybe, but I'm a fool who actually loves your daughters, who sees them as human beings with hopes and dreams and the right to choose their own path. Can you say the same? The silence that followed was deafening. Jayla Quinn stood in his living room, and for the first time she'd arrived, she looked uncertain. You love her, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. More than anything. Audrey. Yes. Jayla was quiet for a long moment, her eyes still on the drawing Penny had made. You have a daughter. Her name is Penny. She's 5. And my daughters have been helping you raise her? They've been part of our family. Yes. Our family. Jayla repeated the words like she was tasting them. You really mean that? Every word. Another long silence. Then Jayla turned to face him fully, and Theo saw something he didn't expect in her eyes. Exhaustion. Do you have any idea what it's like, she said quietly, to build something from nothing? To fight tooth and nail for every opportunity, every deal, every success. To know that one mistake, one moment of weakness could cost you everything. No, I don't. I grew up with nothing, Mr. Ford. My mother cleaned houses. My father left before I was born. I put myself through school working 3 jobs. When I started my first company, I had $500 and a laptop I'd bought at a pawn shop. Every door was closed to me. Every opportunity was denied. So I forced them open. I built an empire from dust and determination and sheer refusal to accept no. She took a breath. And when I had my daughters, I swore they would never struggle the way I did. They would have every advantage, every opportunity, every door already open. I planned out their lives not to control them, but to protect them, to ensure they would never feel powerless the way I did. But that's exactly how you made them feel. Powerless. Jayla's composure cracked, just for a moment. I know. The admission hung in the air. I've been so focused on building security for them, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper, that I forgot to ask if they felt safe. So focused on opening doors that I forgot to ask which rooms they actually wanted to enter. It's not too late, Theo said. You could still... The front door burst open. Audrey and Kira stood in the doorway, frozen, their faces white with shock. Mother. Mother and daughters just stared at each other across Theo's living room. Then, Kira moved first, stepping in front of Audrey protectively. "We're not coming back," Kira said, her voice shaking but firm. "Whatever you're here to threaten or bribe or promise, the answer is no." "I'm not here to threaten you," Jayla said quietly. "Then why are you here?" "To apologize." The twins stared at her like she'd sprouted a second head. "I came here to drag you home, to shame you into compliance, to use every tool at my disposal to make you see reason. But your Mr. Ford here has made me realize something." She looked at Audrey, and her expression softened in a way Thea wouldn't have thought possible. "I've been so terrified of you making mistakes that I've forgot you need to make your own choices, even if I think they're wrong, even if they scare me. Because that's what freedom means, the right to choose your own path, even when it's hard." "You froze our accounts," Audrey said, tears streaming down her face. "You took everything." "I did, and I was wrong." Jayla's voice cracked. "I thought I was teaching you a lesson about consequences, about the real world. But all I taught you was that I didn't trust you, that I didn't believe in you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Kira was crying now too. "What about Preston? What about the merger?" "The merger will survive without a wedding. Or it won't, and I'll deal with it. But I will not force my daughter into a marriage she doesn't want. Not anymore." Audrey took a tentative step forward. "You mean it? You're really letting us go?" "I'm letting you choose," Jayla corrected gently. "If you want to come home, you can. If you want to stay here," she glanced at Theo, "with him, with this family you found, then I'll support that too. Your accounts will be unfrozen by the end of the day. You'll have access to everything you need. And when you graduate in May, you'll have your trust funds, no strings attached." "Why?" Audrey whispered. "Why now?" Jayla looked at the drawing on the coffee table again, at the 5 stick figures, at the word family. "Because I've spent 23 years building an empire, and I forgot to build a family. And I think perhaps it's time I learned the difference." Audrey crossed the room in 3 steps and threw her arms around her mother. Jayla stiffened for a moment, then wrapped her arms around her daughter and held on tight. Kira joined them a second later, and the 3 Quinn women stood in Theo's modest living room, crying and holding each other and beginning the long, painful process of healing. Theo quietly stepped into the kitchen to give them privacy. His hands were shaking, his heart was pounding, but for the first time in weeks he thought maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. Graduation day arrived in a blur of blue robes and proud tears.
Penny insisted on wearing her fanciest dress, the one with layers of tulle that made her look like a cupcake. She carried a bouquet of wildflowers she'd picked from the backyard that morning, announcing loudly to everyone around them that she'd picked them for her big sisters who are so smart. Theo sat in the audience between Penny and Jayla Quinn, feeling distinctly out of place among parents who'd arrived in expensive cars and designer clothes. But when Audrey's name was called, Audrey Lee Quinn, Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, summa cum laude, he was on his feet, cheering louder than anyone else. Audrey found them afterward, her cap askew, her face flushed with joy. She knelt down to accept Penny's wildflowers, then stood and kissed Theo so thoroughly that several people whistled. "I did it," Sue breathed. "I actually did it." "You did," Theo agreed, grinning. "I'm so proud of you." Even Jayla was smiling, a real smile, soft and genuine. She hugged both her daughters, whispering something that made them both cry happy tears. That night, there was a celebration at the house on Maple Street. Theo grilled burgers. Kira made her famous chocolate chip cookies. Jayla showed up with champagne and actual crystal glasses, which seemed ridiculous in Theo's kitchen, but somehow worked.
They toasted to new beginnings, to freedom, to family. And later, when everyone had gone home or gone to bed, Theo found himself once again on the back porch with Audrey. So, what now? You have your degree, you have your trust fund. You could go anywhere, do anything. I could, Audrey agreed. She was quiet for a moment, then took his hand. Or I could stay here, with you, with Penny. Build something new. You'd really want that? This life? It's not glamorous. I don't want glamorous. I want real. I want home. I want this. She squeezed his hand. If you'll have me. Theo pulled a small box from his pocket. He'd bought the ring 3 weeks ago with money from a custom bookshelf commission. Had been carrying it around ever since, waiting for the right moment. I was going to wait, he said, opening the box to reveal a simple silver band with a small diamond. Make it romantic. But you know what? This is romantic. Right here, right now, on this porch where we fell in love. Audrey's eyes went wide. Audrey Quinn, Theo said, his voice shaking, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me and Penny? Will you take a chance on a woodworking teacher with a lumpy couch and a house that needs paint and a heart that's already completely yours? Yes, Audrey said, laughing through her tears. Yes, yes, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and she kissed him as the stars came out overhead. The wedding was 6 months later, in October, when the Oregon leaves were turning gold and red. It was small, just close friends, a few of Theo's colleagues, some of Kara's new friends from her graduate program. Jayla sat in the second row, not the first. She'd insisted, saying it was Penny's place to be up front since this was her family too. She watched her daughter marry a high school woodworking teacher in a backyard ceremony. And she smiled. A real smile. Because she was learning that wealth wasn't measured in dollars or stock options or corporate mergers. It was measured in moments like this, in freedom and choice and love. Kira was the maid of honor, stunning in a deep blue dress. She cried through the entire ceremony, happy tears that she didn't bother to wipe away. And Penny was the flower girl, wearing her light-up sneakers under her fancy dress because she'd insisted and Theo had learned to pick his battles. She took her job very seriously, scattering rose petals with solemn concentration, then running up to Audrey's legs before the vows. When the officiant asked if anyone had objections, Penny raised her hand. I object to waiting any longer, she announced. Can they just kiss already? The audience erupted in laughter. Even the officiant was grinning. Okay, he said. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss. Theo didn't wait for him to finish. He pulled Audrey into his arms and kissed her as their friends and family cheered. Daddy, Penny whispered loudly, tugging at his sleeve during the kiss. Daddy, does this mean Audrey is my mommy now? Theo broke away from the kiss, looking down at his daughter's hopeful face. Audrey knelt down, taking Penny's small hands in hers. Only if you want me to be, Audrey said softly. I could never replace your first mommy. She was so special, and she loved you so much. But if you want, I could be your second mommy. The one who's here now to love you and take care of you and be part of your family. Penny thought about this very seriously for exactly 3 seconds. Then she threw her arms around Audrey's neck. Yes, I want you to be my mommy, and Kira can be my aunt, and Grandma Jayla can come visit, and we can all be a family forever and ever. Audrey was crying. Theo was crying. Half the audience was crying. Even Jayla was discreetly dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. Forever and ever, Audrey promised, holding Penny tight. I love you so much. I love you too, Mommy. And in that moment, in that backyard in Eugene, Oregon, with the autumn leaves falling around them and the people they loved watching and smiling, Theo Ford understood something profound. Family wasn't about blood or biology or who came first. It was about who stayed, who fought for you, who chose you day after day, even when it was hard. It was about freedom and love and the courage to build something new from broken pieces. It was about second chances. And it was about knowing that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone isn't control or protection or even wealth. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply the freedom to choose their own happiness and to be there, standing beside them when they do. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love isn't about control, it's about freedom, leave a comment and let me know what this meant to you. And if you believe in second chances, hit that subscribe button. Because there are so many more stories like this one waiting to be told. Stories about courage and family and the beautiful, messy, wonderful ways people find each other in the darkness. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you in the next story.